Yeah, okay. What I'm going to do is flip it over, cut it out, and flip it back, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. Oh, it's already on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over and cut off the tape so we have a nice clean line, and then we flip it back over this way and let it dry completely. And here I'm cutting into the resin and fiberglass, and as you can see in a moment, that's what we'll pull off, roughly like so. So we have a nice clean line, but I'm going to cut it all off all around, all the way. And pull some of these things off. So I've scored all along in here. And then I'm peeling this back. Trying to get a nice clean edge. Wear gloves. It's sticky, but not too sticky. It's by experience. You have to find out when that right moment is, because if it's still too runny, you can't do this. It has to be partially dry, enough so you can sort of manipulate these strands back like so a little bit. Okay, so it's a day later. This is dry. I'm going to turn it over and cut out glass for that side. These little hard edges, if they're really bugging, you can file them down like that, and then I'm going to cut out my fiberglass, a piece that fits in here, and then another piece that wraps all the way around, and we'll show you that when we get to that. So what we've done now, on the top of the board we've cut out one piece of fiberglass that is called a deck patch, which goes in up to everywhere from where we put the glass on the other side. And then we cut another piece that fully wraps all the way around, and in the end the idea is that it all becomes one big piece. So it wraps around here. Don't forget to make sure it's level, so when you pour your epoxy or polyester, it runs off straight. And we notched our stringer again for that added little bit of strength in there, and we've also made a little scratch mark so we can fold this up and lay our resin down and get it back into approximately the same place. And now the top side, again just like the bottom side, and remember, it's vital that it all soaks through. Spread it out and get rid of the excess. As tight, the better. The tighter, the less there is on there, the stronger it's going to be. There's not going to be any weak spots. And here we're approaching the completion. Just make sure, like, these spots are still dry. That's bad. Make sure everything's wet and neatly wrapped around so it all becomes one when it dries. Like, that's a dry spot, that's no good. Rub it in, smooth it out. Make sure you mix enough resin. I use 12 ounces. It's probably just barely enough. This is a short board, that's something. Always make sure you have too much rather than too little. And that's it. Okay, so we've drawn out as much as we can. Let that go over the sides, and then we make sure that's nice and smooth, and then let gravity do the rest. So it's a day later. Our resin has dried. I'm going to turn it back over to the side we're going to work on today and give it a quick little sand to get rid of some of these bumpy spots. Like so. Be very careful not to go through the fiberglass. You just want to get rid of some of those spots. You can also use the Surfboard. Both ways are good. Whichever way you use, don't go through. Just a general smoothness before your little acetone wipe down and next layer of resin. And now for a quick little acetone wipe down to ensure a good bond. Do that after you've blown off any dust. And this sort of opens up the surface, almost makes it melt a little bit, so it all becomes one giant resin thing. And then I save this little piece for cleanup from the tool after the next coat. Okay, so I just mixed up a total of 18 ounces of resin. And I always put the second coat on a little thicker. The first one you have to dry everything out to get a good bond with the fiberglass to the board. This one is more of a real covering coat, so it goes on a little thicker. And then I use one of these things, smooth it all around. These things are actually indispensable for wiping along the bottom, etc., etc. So first I spread it out with the squeegee, and then you use the foam brush. Foam doesn't melt with epoxy. Some of the combinations you have to be careful. Some of the brushes will melt with polyester resin, etc. Make sure your materials all go together. So I'm really just trying to get the resin on everywhere, close to the edges. don't want to get it close yet because it's all going to drip down. I want to make sure we get a nice covering before we let it start to drip. So now it seems we've got it covered everywhere, and now I go with my foam brush and make it nice and even. Make sure you get the sides. Rails have to be covered. Some ways it's good to have a little extra on the rails because that's always the trickiest part to sand.